This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about Tony Danza vacuuming, enormous office equipment, and made-up Midwestern newspapers. All that and more as we watch Season 5, Episode 19 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Imran. I'm one of your hosts, one of your cousins for the next hour. Joining me is my sister, Sophia. How are you, Sophia?
I'm well, and not only am I the sister, I'm also, I don't know if you know this, Imran, I'm the boss of this podcast.
You do wear the pants in this podcast?
Am I the boss or are you the boss? I think I'm the boss.
Who's the boss? Who cares? Is there a boss? You're not bossy. Do you like when people call you boss? Hey, boss. How's it going, boss?
Nobody calls me boss.
Nobody calls
I think
you that?
I would enjoy it, though. I think I would like
It's
it.
weird. Now people call me boss.
Calling you boss. Okay, boss. What's this what are we talking about
boss.
today? Yes, boss.
Look here, boss. Yes, boss. Season 5, Episode 19, we are up to of Perfect Strangers in our journey. This one titled, He's the Boss.
Oh, it's He's the Boss. I'm not the boss, and you're not the boss, but he's the boss.
But what does it make you think of right away?
I'm vacuuming Angela.
Hey, Angela. Who's the boss over here? Yeah, obviously another popular ABC show, Who's the Boss? Tony Danza, Judith Light.
Yes.
Who I just saw in an episode of Poker Face. She's really good. Alyssa Milano.
Yes.
First aired in the spring of 86. When Perfect Strangers first aired, it was Who's the Boss was the lead-in in 1986. So I think it went off the air at this point, maybe. What is the other girl's name? She was great. Who played the grandma?
Mona.
Mona was a great character.
Yeah.
I liked Who's the Boss. Do you remember watching this?
I do. I did like it too. Vacuuming Angela.
That's first. Everybody goes to that same impersonation. Hey ho!
All right, but back into Perfect Strangers. If you would have gone to the TV guide to find out what this episode was about, you would have read a reorganization at the newspaper has Balky on a meteoric rise from the mailroom to an executive office.
Ooh.
But he's unaware it's only a token job for immigrant trainees.
We have our wonderful cast: Bronson Pinchot as Balky, Mark Lynn Baker as Larry, Rebecca Arthur as Mary Ann, Melanie Wilson as Jennifer Lyons. Also, we got Belita Moreno as Lydia Markham. Love Lydia. Sam Anderson, Mr. Gorpley.
Everybody's here.
And F.J. O'Neill as Mr. Wainwright, the publisher. I'm starting to love Wainwright. And then we got another guy we will talk about.
This episode aired on February 23rd, 1990. And let's get into it. Act 1 opens in the basement of the Chicago Chronicle. And we have another song.
Another
a
opening
Balky
song.
version
Yes, I love
of a song. So Balky's at his table. He's licking stamps and putting them on envelopes and envelopes. And as he's putting stamps on, he sings his own version of the Candyman song.
Yeah, from Willy Wonka and other
Willy
things.
Wonka.
Yes, except he's turned it into a mail song. He goes,
Yeah.
"Who could take the mailbag?"
And then Larry goes, mailbag.
That's the funniest thing is now other people have joined in. So as Larry passes by, he fills that mailbag, and then he goes, "Dump it on his desk."
And then Lydia comes by and goes, dump it on his desk.
Stamp each letter twice before he has to take a rest. The Balky Man. The Balky Man.
Oh, the Balky Man can.
I love now that the background people are joining in the song. And then Gorpley just then exits and walks up, and you're like, oh, is he going to sing with him?
And then he goes, Bartokamus. And Balky keeps singing, even though Gorpley's barking his name. He says, the Balky Man can, because he wets it with his tongue to make the stamp stay on.
It's so good. It licks a stamp and emphatically puts it on.
Anyway, Gorpley is there to find out where Mr. Glover's mail is. Who, you might ask, is Mr. Glover? Well, we find out because Balky says that the mail for the new executive vice president was delivered first thing this morning by Sincerely Yours. He means yours truly. Means himself.
Sincerely Yours. It's funny. And Gorpley is upset at this, and he goes, oh, darn it. He wants to kiss up his own way to the new executive VP. He goes, I'll just send him a gift. Never mind. He'll like that. And then he goes, something classy. I wonder if Bambi's available. Is he going to send a stripper to the executive VP?
Pretty racy for TGIF.
Was this what was happening at companies in 1990?
But
Jeez.
it's implied. It's only implied because they got around it with this clever exchange of dialogue.
Balky's not going to get this.
So Gorpley says something classy. I wonder if Bambi's available. And Balky's like, I'm sure it is. I returned my copy this morning. So technically we're talking about...
Bambi, the Disney animated
and Gorpley
feature
doesn't
film.
say anything else.
Yes.
He just gives him a look and heads back to his office.
So, yeah, this show...
So they get around it. They skirt right on the edge.
This show does this a lot, and it's going to do it again. Like, sometimes there's some really racy stuff slipped in.
Implications.
And then they, gloss over it with the funny jokes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so everyone's talking about how everyone's trying to kiss up to this Mr. Glover, right?
Yeah. Danny Glover? Yeah.
And why is everyone nervous? Like, Lydia's like, Gorpley's groveling, this and that. And Larry explains that everyone's nervous because Wainwright gave Glover carte blanche to reorganize the newspaper.
Carte blanche. To which Belky goes, question. Why would Mr. Wainwright give him carte blanche when more businesses worldwide accept Visa and MasterCard? So he thinks it's a credit card. It's not a credit card. And Larry explains carte blanche means Glover can do whatever he wants, including hiring and firing people. And Lydia's like, she's not worried. She's like, I can rest easy. She goes, when your advice column is syndicated in over 800 newspapers, you don't have to worry about your job.
Oh,
she's a little cocky. She thinks she's fine with Mr. Glover.
So then the elevator opens and Wainwright and this man, who's Mr. Glover, step out mid-conversation into the basement, and you hear the Mr. Glover say that he got rid of some dead wood in advertising. Oh, he's already firing people. And then Balky's like, that's Mr. Glover. And we hear him saying, like, recommending someone who should be promoted or have his own column. And Wainwright's like, sure, whatever you think is best, whatever. And then here's the kicker. This is why we're so invested in Mr. Glover, because Wainwright says, if you can do for us what you did for the St. Louis Examiner, I'll be a happy man.
Oh, okay.
And we don't know what it is he did for the St. Louis Examiner, but apparently it was something good. And Glover's like, you got it. And then we find out that Wainwright is leaving for a week at a publisher's conference. So Wainwright's going to be gone for the next week. As Wainwright's leaving, Larry pipes up, have a good trip, Mr. Wainwright. And he says, thank you, Appleton. And then Glover is like, oh, Appleton.
Uh-oh.
And Larry gets so nervous, like he's about to get fired. And Glover goes, so you wrote the article on corruption in the sanitation department? Uh-oh. And Larry looks so nervous and worried. And then he finally goes, good job.
So far, Glover seems to be an okay guy, but we find out that he's not, and he's cutthroat. As Lydia walks over to Mr. Wainwright before he leaves, he goes, Lydia goes, if you run into Rupert Murdoch at the conference, be sure to tell him Lydia Markham says hello. She turns to make sure Glover can hear this and goes, we're old friends. Like name dropping and shoving in. And then Glover's like, oh, you are Lydia Markham.
Ooh.
And he goes, I wanted to talk to you about your readers. And she's fawning. She's like, oh, I know there's a lot of them, aren't there? And then here we go. Now you see the real Glover. He goes, yes, but unfortunately, they're all over 40.
What?
We're trying to appeal to a younger crowd now, Lydia, and you're not helping be in my office at 2.
No.
Oh, my God. He just called her to an office.
He's about to fire Lydia.
And he walks off with Mr. Glover, walks Wainwright out the garage, and she is stunned and shaking and shell-shocked.
She did such a good job at that.
Yes.
Lita Moreno.
Suddenly, she's like, uh-oh, and she's in pain.
And Balky offers her a chair to sit down, and she goes, sit down? Who's got time to sit down? If I don't start writing about pimples, petting, and puberty, I'm history.
Okay.
And she runs off into the elevator. I like this alliteration and rule of 3. However, here's another fairly racy implication. The idea is she needs to be writing about young people,
things,
right?
Yes.
Pimples, fine. Puberty, fine.
Yeah.
Petting.
Petting.
She said
Heavy
pimples,
petting?
petting, and
As
puberty. But imagine like on TGIF, if you heard that, you're like,
puberty. Yeah, well, but it happened so quickly.
It happened so quickly, and we didn't have captions back then.
And we were both like, did she just say petting?
Yeah, we had to go back and...
What? She said petting. But you needed it. They couldn't think of another P word, I guess, that would relate to...
Pizza?
You could have went pimples, pizza, and puberty.
Pimples.
Because teenagers, they love pizza. Who doesn't love pizza? But heavy petting is
that's a little racy.
She has to do some research.
Yeah.
I got to say, moving forward, this guy playing Mr. Glover, his name is Sanford Jensen, but he plays a great bad guy because I immediately didn't like this guy. I'm like, oh, this guy. I don't like this guy. He's a big jerk.
He's a good jerk. Yeah.
He's got a great jerk face and jerk vibe coming off of him. I was like, you knew what the job was and you did it, buddy. Sanford Jensen, good job. So Lydia, she's left in the elevator, and Balky walks over to Larry, noting Lydia was very upset, and Larry's just like, yeah, upset. Too bad. He just glosses over. He goes, did you hear what Glover said about my article?
Gosh,
this
Larry,
is all that he's stuck on.
Yeah.
He just got a compliment. You know what happens? Never compliment Larry.
Larry Appleton,
You know what happens when you compliment the Larry Appleton.
This is funny. Okay, so I forgot to say before that Glover was talking to Wainwright about a guy in financial called Craig Howard, and they're like, he's a good reporter. Let's give him his own column. And now Larry says, I know Craig Howard in financial. I'm twice the writer he is, and he's getting his own column. And Balky goes, maybe you'll get two columns. Get it? Because he's twice the writer.
Oh, he's twice the writer. You know what? I didn't get that the first time.
So he thinks that if Glover moved this other guy up, then Larry could be next. And Balky gets very excited for his cousin. He says, maybe your ship has finally hit the fan.
Okay, what is he's not even, they've used this saying before. What is he even trying to say? Like, your ship has sailed?
But that's not a good thing. Bad connotation.
And then when is this when the ship hits the fan?
That's also a bad connotation.
And again, like, kind of racy, like very close to a word you can't say on TV. Yeah. So they're slipping things in here.
Yep. Okay, so then they're like being excited for each other, and then Glover comes back in from the parking garage, and he says he sort of looks at both of them in their general direction, and he says, "Oh, good, I'm glad you're still here. I want to talk to you about a promotion." And we see Larry's face light up, and Balky looks hopeful for Larry, and Glover goes on to say that he's created a new department called editorial services. And he thinks the most qualified person to head up the department is you. And Larry immediately goes, thank you, sir. Thank you. And then we find out Glover goes, not you. I was talking to him. And he points at Balky.
Oh my God.
And he says, congratulations, Bartakamus. You're an executive.
Oh boy. Balky just got a big promotion. And Glover, just to, celebrate as he walks back towards the archives, just needs to do like a random offhand firing. He just walking by this lady goes, you're fired. And then just walks away just to keep him happy. Like, you could tell this is a guy that enjoys firing people right away.
By the way, that lady he fires on his way out, she's been a regular background character.
Oh, poor lady. She didn't deserve to get fired.
Series, and she's often seen in the basement, working in the basement. But this was like a little bit of a spotlight for getting fired.
She's one of the background employees, and now she's fired. Not anymore. You know what? I bet we'll see her again. She'll be fine. So then we transition to later at the apartment, and Balky is talking. Jennifer and Marianne are there. The girls are there. And he is talking about his new job. And Marianne wants to know why Mr. Glover gave him such a big office. And Balky just goes, he had to. It's the only place they could fit my giant, humongous desk. Humongous desk. And Marianne's rubbing it in Larry's face. Have you seen his desk, Larry? And Larry's like, no, I was busy working all day at my little desk in the giant, humongous basement. And Marianne just goes, tell me about the chair again, Balky.
Balky's like, well, it's a rolling chair, and it's just like Cousin Larry's, only it has all the wheels.
Oh, poor Larry.
And it's covered with leather.
Can you imagine he has an office chair and it's got 3 of the wheels? That's not good.
And then Larry excuses himself to go make some more coffee. He offers the group, and they're like, no, we're good. he says, I'll make some anyway because I want to be alert when we discuss the carpeting.
And then you hear Marianne go, oh, tell me about the carpeting.
Balky's like, I'm pretty sure it's Anso 4-thread nylon. And did I mention it's wear dated?
Wear dated.
All this like carpeting lingo.
Yes, as we move over to Jennifer and Larry in the kitchen, and they have an aside, of course, that the others won't be able to hear.
Yes.
Even though they're just like right over.
Yes. It's sitcom privacy.
Yeah.
And Jennifer asks Larry if Balky's promotion is bothering him. And clearly it is. And he says he doesn't get it. This morning, Balky was working in the mailroom, and in the afternoon, he's got a huge office on the executive floor. And Jennifer suggests that perhaps Larry is jealous of Balky. And Larry goes, do you think I'd be jealous of Balky just because he has his own office? Jennifer starts to be like, and he keeps going, deep pile carpeting and a huge desk. And Jennifer's like, Larry, I just feel that, and he keeps going, a window that looks out over the Chicago skyline so he can sit in his Corinthian leather chair and enjoy the sunset. I mean, you think that would make me jealous?
It's so great the way Mark Lindbaker delivers these lines. You can see
he's in pain.
You can see the pain on his face, and then it ends with that smile.
It makes no sense.
I was like, what do you think? That make me jealous? And then Jennifer just looks at him and goes, yes.
And he's like, okay, you're right. But in a very recent Larry way, like the kind of Larry we've been seeing a lot of lately, contrary to that, he says, but I'm not gonna let any petty jealousy stop me from being happy for my best friend.
That's really nice, because I didn't.
Very nice.
Yes, I'm glad that his jealousy didn't get the best of him.
Right, because at this point it doesn't make any sense to him why Balky got this job, right?
Yeah. It's not even more jealousy. He's just like, I think he feels something is wrong.
Understand it.
Yes, like something's up. Anyways, we come back and you see Marianne leaning into Balky going, I think powerful men are very sexy. And Balky's clearly taken with this. He just goes, you do? And and she goes, I do. And they're leaning together, about to kiss, when Larry just comes on, sits next to him, slaps him on the knees, like, Balky buddy.
and Bronson Pinchot jumps
he jumps up because he smacked him pretty hard on the knee
hard.
As they sit down, and he goes, I just want you to know no one is happier for you than I am, which is very nice. He goes, you're a very hard worker. If anybody deserves a break, you do. This is so nice of Larry to tell.
Very nice. And he says, I want you to know that my new executive lifestyle is not going to change our friendship in any way. Larry's like, I know that. And to celebrate your promotion, I'd like to take you to lunch tomorrow. And Balky goes, tomorrow's no good for me.
Tomorrow's no good.
So it's already affecting their friendship.
Yes. He's already become a corporate bad guy. Anyways, we cut to the next day. We're back at the Chronicle. And you see Balky in this lavish office. As Balky's secretary, he has a secretary now, opens the door to announce, there's a Mr. Appleton here to see you. And Larry enters, and Balky runs over and hugs him. And first of all, there's so many things.
Yes.
What he's wearing, this huge office that's got like windows and curtains and flowers and plants and nice furniture and a big glossy desk and tons of books.
He's wearing
what is he wearing?
Elaborate, like deep green, like
tunic.
Yeah,
would you describe
gold embroidered?
Yes,
not quite the Meposian tuxedo, but you can definitely see immediately. It's Meposian formal wear. And a belt
around.
It's beautiful, actually.
Yeah, it's quite nice. Gold lame trim embroidered.
Larry just looks at it and is like, interesting outfit. And Balky's like, oh, thank you. I'm trying to dress for excess. He means dress for success. But then Larry says, well, you're succeeding.
You're succeeding.
Which could have been funny if he said, well, you're exceeding.
Yeah.
Because he's...
No, I like how they put the success back into the whole
Very
phrase.
Funny.
So Larry's looking around. He tells Balky the place is incredible. And Balky's really excited to show Larry everything. He grabs his hand and goes, Cousin, come look at this. He leads him over to like... there's like a dresser. There's like it's like a shelf. But on top of the shelf is a microwave and a refrigerator. He goes, they're so generous. They give me a refrigerator and a microwave. And it's
microwave's huge, by the way.
It's a big microwave, yes, right? Remember how big they used to be? It is a giant microwave. And then like a half-size refrigerator that, like a little
like a college
party refrigerator.
Room.
And Balky goes, I'm conducting an experiment to see how fast I can boil water and then freeze it. My personal best is 18 minutes.
And then he's like, and if that wasn't enough, look at this. And he opens the refrigerator and pulls out a head of lettuce.
This is so weird. I was like,
then
what?
He runs across the room to this enormous piece of equipment, this enormous machine. He's like, look at this. They gave me my very own salad maker. And Balky puts a leaf of lettuce. It's a shredder. It's a
paper shredder. Yes.
And then they're meant to.
Well, he holds the bowl underneath to catch the lettuce.
And all the shredded comes out. But we can still see the leaf of lettuce at the top that doesn't move at all.
Does not move. It gets sucked into the machine.
I think they were meant to cut that out of the scene. But
lettuce falls out and lettuce stays on time. And Larry goes, Balky, that's a paper shredder. And Balky's suddenly confused. He goes, a paper salad? Interesting concept. I guess with a light vinaigrette and some croutons, why not? It's hilarious. Then I just picture him eating a paper salad. But Larry's like, he's here on business. He was assigned a story by Mr. Glover. The story is to interview Balky and his rise of
meteoric rise from the
mail
room to the editorial. It's the head of editorial services. And Balky goes, get out of the city.
Get out of the city.
And so he says, let's step over here. He takes him across the office to where there's like some couches.
Yeah, he's got a whole seating area.
Let's step over here to what I like to call my sitting down and talking area and get up close and personal. So they go to the lounge area, they sit down. And Larry starts the interview. He's like, great. Maybe you can tell me what the head of editorial services does on a typical day. Balky's like, so many things. He said, I don't know where to begin. I'm as busy as a mosquito in a nudist colony.
That's a great line and a great image in your head.
Yeah. So then he runs over to his desk to get his planner. He says, I'll read you from my book. I like how he says that. I've got to read you from my book. And so he starts reading through, say, 1 o'clock, get my picture taken. 2 o'clock, get my picture taken. 3 o'clock, get my picture taken. And Larry says, is that all you do, get your picture taken? And Balky says, well, of course not. Don't be ridiculous. 3:30, meet with Cousin Larry. And then he points at him and smiles. And he's like, but we got to go quickly because I have to. And then Larry's like, get your picture taken.
Yes. And they both say it together. And then suddenly there's a knock on the door. It's Glover.
Whoop.
Glover walks in, goes, Mr. Bartakamus, and Balky's so happy to see him. He goes, Mr. Glover! He runs over, of course, hugs him with both arms. And Glover's like, Mr. Bartakamus, some members of the Chamber of Commerce are outside. Would you mind having your picture taken? Balky goes, what? I mind. Does Miss Meepos have a mustache?
Okay, you know what's doubly funny about this? One is like a funny Meepos joke, right? Implying Miss Meepos does have a mustache. But the way he answers, would I mind? That means he does mind.
I thought the same thing. I was like, wait a minute.
This doesn't make sense. My brain fixed on this when we just watched it before we were recording. My brain fixed on this. I was like, wait, that means...
So does it mean Balky doesn't know?
Because usually when you ask this, you're expecting the affirmative answer. But
would you mind?
Would you mind is the negative thing. No, I don't mind.
No, I don't mind. Yeah.
But the way he says it, he's saying, yes, I do mind. Would I mind? Does Miss Meepos have a mustache?
Unless the answer to that question is no.
No, Miss Meepos does have a mustache. She does have a mustache. They always say that.
So he does mind, but it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if they did that intentionally or they weren't paying attention, but I think it worked on a couple levels. But it definitely like took me out of it for a minute because my brain stopped there.
I thought the same thing. I was like, wait, that means he does mind. No, it's all backwards. Anyways, he runs out and he's like, I'll be right back. And now Larry's going to try to get some answers from Mr. Glover. Tells him he's having trouble with the assignment, and Glover's happy to help him, and he just straight out asks him, what exactly does the head of editorial services do? And Glover kind of hems and goes, well, he's a liaison between editorial operations and management, providing a vital source of input to reduce friction and enhance efficiency.
Oh my gosh.
All just buzzwords and vagaries.
Words that mean nothing. And Larry calls him out on it. He says, how precisely does Balky do that? And Glover says, well, in a variety of ways, by networking within the infrastructure and interfacing with the private sector.
Interfacing with the private sector is hilarious. Just complete Baba
Larry
Stinky.
is not buying any of this. Yeah. He says, I'm sorry, Mr. Glover, but that sounds like a lot of double talk for someone who's got no job at all.
And now he's got him because Glover's like, okay, Appleton, let me clear something up for you, he tells him. He asks him if he's ever heard of a program called American Dream. And Larry has. This is a training program for immigrants to help them acquire the skills necessary to advance in the business community. He answers, and Glover's like, yep, that's the one. I promoted Bartakamus as part of that program. But Larry's still not buying it. As far as I can see, you're not training Balky to do anything. And Glover just scoffs at this and says, that's a waste of time. It's much easier to have you write the article that makes it look like I trained him. So he's just looking for Larry to write a lying article to get some good PR. And now Larry's getting serious.
Good
he goes,
PR, government money, or whatever.
Government money
with that, yeah.
But Larry has integrity. And he just goes back and says, Mr. Glover, what you're doing is tokenism. Oh, man, that's a big word for a family primetime sitcom. Tokenism. And he goes, I can't write you a story to help you do that.
And then Glover threatens him. He says, if you can't write it, well, I can find someone else who can while you look for another job.
No.
And then he goes, think about it.
Think about it.
And then
yes.
we fade to black, end of Act 1.
Oh, my God. I hate Glover already.
He is bribe. He's running something fishy.
He's just got no ethics and morals. Unbelievable character to hate right away.
And also, he has not even developed a buddy relationship with his staff yet. So I feel like it's too soon to be like, oh, you're going to write this corrupt piece for me, right?
Well, but
you have to buddy up to them first and get their favor and then be like, by the way, and then make it think like it's nothing.
But you get these bosses coming in and they don't bother finding out what a place is like and just start changing things.
Yeah.
Because they need to have their stamp on everything. Anyways, that's the end of Act 1. Listener, you can tell us what you think about tokenism. Join the conversation. Join our Facebook group where I post a thread of our episode we're going to record ahead of time. So you can watch along. It's all streaming free on Amazon Freevee. And leave your comments, observations, memories, and we use them in the show. And you will meet other people. If you think you're the only person who's a diehard Perfect Strangers fan,
nope,
you are wrong. There's lots of us out there. You want to meet them? That's where you meet them.
All right, let's roll into Act 2. We are in the apartment, and it's about, maybe a few days later, and it's in the evening time. And Larry's on the couch talking to Jennifer.
He's venting to Jennifer.
And he's saying it's just not right. And this is like his integrity, his conscience. He's very bothered by this. What Glover has done to take a valuable program that helps people who could use a break and turn it into a meaningless showcase. And Jennifer says that he has to tell Balky what's happening. And Larry said that he has tried to tell him every day this week, but he's so happy and he doesn't want to burst his bubble. And Jennifer's like, maybe he's not as happy as you think he is. And just then Balky bursts through the front door and he's in his Meposian, formal wear again. And he tosses his briefcase and jacket aside and he goes, I am the happiest Meepiot in the entire solar plexus.
Solar plexus.
And then he cartwheels across the living room.
Yeah. Ends up in the kitchen. Hey, he's wearing that. That's the Meposian tuxedo, right?
Is that the tuxedo? Okay, yeah.
And then Jennifer's like, then again, what do I know? I have to go. Clearly, Balky is ecstatic. He's loving the job. And as Jennifer gets up to leave, Balky runs over and goes, Jennifer, we don't see enough of each other anymore. He grabs her hand and caresses it. He goes, have your people call my people and we'll do lunch.
Jennifer's just like, okay, I'll do that.
He's become so corporate and executive-y. It's hilarious. She leaves. And Larry's like, well, Balky, it seems like you're really happy with your new job. And Balky, of course, goes, oh, come on, cousin, get real. I'm living the life of Pat Riley.
Okay, this one took me a little
good one. He
while.
Combines two things.
Two things that I didn't know what they were.
So I've heard of the phrase living the life of Riley.
I have not heard that, but I looked it up and apparently it's a phrase, but what's the origin of it?
Well, I don't know. It's there. I've always wondered. I never stopped to think about it, but it's in a Tribe Called Quest song. And a lot of people say I'm living the life of Riley, meaning I'm living a carefree, luxurious life, that I'm happy, no worries, the life of Riley. I don't know where it came from.
So
who is Riley? And he must have had a great life that forever people use him as the standard.
I think there's a few different suggestions about where and how that phrase got started. If you happen to be living the life of Riley,
I feel like it's a
know.
really old
It's like
saying.
some Irish thing.
Yeah, it's going to be like an old European, either Irish or Gaelic or like English. Anyways, he says, I'm living the life of Pat Riley, who Pat Riley at the time in 1990 was the head coach of the Lakers.
And was named NBA Coach of the Year
3 times.
That was the first
year
time.
Too, yes.
That year was the first
Of course,
time.
he goes on to coach the Knicks and the Heat. And if you watch that show, Winning Time on HBO, it's fantastic about the Showtime Lakers. Adrian Brody plays Pat Riley. I think it's Adrian Brody. So you really get to know him. But yeah, Pat Riley would have been huge as the winningest coach. So I'm
living the life of Pat Riley. Anyway, he says, how could I not be happy? And Larry just stands there and Belky goes, I mean, how could I not be happy? Larry's like, you guess you have everything. He says, I sure do. And then he bursts into tears and he goes, so how can I not be happy?
He is not happy. Jennifer was right.
And so Belky says he's not happy. And Larry's shocked and he's like, why not? And Belky says, I don't know. I should be. And then he's like, I've got everything a meepiot could wish for. And Larry's like, what? And then he mumbles again, something's missing. Larry says, what? And he goes, something's missing. Like, oh, something's missing.
Because he's crying through it the first 2 times. I think he just says it normally.
And Larry tells him what's missing is a real job.
Balky argues he has a real job. He's head of editorial services. And Larry's like, well, what exactly does that mean? What do you do? And Balky just goes, I don't know. And starts to sob again. He says every time he's asked Mr. Glover what his job is, he gets his picture taken, which is his job. He goes, I'm beginning to feel like the Christy Brinkley of the Chronicle.
Chrissy Brinkley was a model who was very big in the 80s and 90s.
Yes, so then there's a follow-up joke because Larry goes, that's exactly what you are. And Belky goes, I am. And then he goes, oh, cousin, I hope they don't have a swimsuit issue as he covers his body up. So Christy Brinkley was on the cover of like the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue many times.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
She also, wasn't she married
3
to
consecutive covers, unprecedented.
Billy Joel, or is she's in the Billy Joel video for...
Yeah, she was married to Billy Joel from...
she was married to Billy Joel.
85 to 94.
And that when he did that doo-wop song. What's that song? She's
appeared in several of his music.
Yeah, I remember her from that one video for... Oh, Uptown Girl. It was Uptown Girl. Remember? In the garage, and she's the girl walking by.
She's been living in an
Uptown Girl.
All right. So Balky's the one crying this episode. That's a different thing. And Larry explains that what he means is that Glover created this job so it would look like the Chronicle is complying with a government program that helps immigrants. But there really is no job at all. He tells him it's a fake, a sham.
A sham.
He says, and you're just a puppet in Glover's sleazy scheme. And Belky says, oh, cousin, that is the best news I've heard since they brought back the Munsters. Okay.
I love the Munsters. That was a great TV show. We all remember Herman Munster. Grandpa
was a black and white sitcom about
Fred Gwynn. Like the Frankenstein's monster, the Bride of Frankenstein, and a vampire. They were a family.
All the spooky
Eddie
things
Munster.
in one family. A werewolf.
Werewolf was a Munster. Yeah. And it's fantastic. I don't remember
it was a comedy
that they brought it back in the 90s.
They did apparently bring it out. It was a spinoff called The Munsters Today, which ran from 88 to 91.
I maybe vaguely remember that because I used to love the Munsters.
Was it in color? Maybe
it probably was. I would have been all about this because I loved the Munsters. In fact, Rob Zombie has just put out a Munsters movie this year, 2023, on Netflix.
That's right.
But it's really like, if you see the trailer, it's like low budget. It looks like a student film. No, I heard it's not good. That's the theme song. But that Rob Zombie movie, I don't know. Maybe check it out. I heard it's not good. It's very low budget and weird.
Anyway, Balky's very excited that they brought back the Munsters.
Why is he excited about this news?
It's probably good. We should watch it.
No, but why is Balky excited to hear this news that this whole program's a sham?
Because he thought everyone knew what his job was except him.
Oh.
He thought he was just the slow one, not understanding what his job is. And now this is funny. He says, now I can quit this sleazy puppet show and go back to the mailroom.
And he gets up and he starts to do the dance of joy by himself. And Larry grabs him and goes, no, Balky, you can't do that. If you do that, Glover is just going to replace you with somebody else. And Balky, being a good guy that he is, he goes, that's not going to solve the problem.
Larry agrees and says what they must do is find a way to get rid of Glover so that the program can continue to work the way it's supposed to, as it's intended. Balky says, how do we do that?
How do we do that?
And Larry says, well, I think if we give Glover enough rope, he just might hang himself, which is a pretty grim and icky metaphor.
It's a saying,
I don't know that this line would have been written this
give a
way
person
today.
enough rope and they'll hang themselves. And and Balky kind of softens this by cringing and going, oh, I'd prefer nonviolence. But kind of a hanging joke right there. But also, they're trying to come up with a plan to fire a person, an executive at their job. This is gutsy.
That's like, what?
This is gutsy all of a sudden. They're activists. They're warriors.
Done with the confidence of a 20-something white man.
Yes.
Way to go.
He's like, we can get him. So how's this going to go down? We cut to next day at the Chronicle, and Larry and Balky have brought Wainwright
who has just gotten off the plane from his publisher's trip
into Balky's office. Yes, he's still wearing his coat. He says, I've got jet lag and I've eaten airline food. What is so important that I come here before I go to my office?
And so Larry is trying to hurriedly explain to Wainwright, set this up for Wainwright. He's like, we just think you might be interested in some of the changes Mr. Glover has made. And Wainwright's and he says, please meet the new head of editorial services. No, he says, I'd like you to meet the new head of editorial services. Wainwright's like, good, have him call me. We'll have lunch. And he turns, and then Balky's like, it's me, Miss Balky Bartakamis. And Wainwright's like, you? And he says, well, I'm sure Glover knows what he's doing. And then Larry says that they want Wainwright to know what he's doing.
And Wainwright should know what he's doing. And then Maria opens up the door quickly and goes, Mr. Glover's on his way up. And so they go.
The secretary.
Secretary Maria, her second appearance. And Larry's like, Wainwright, there's no time to explain. What Glover is doing is wrong. And he's the only person with the power to stop him. And Balky goes, so we were wondering if you'd mind very much hiding under the desk. And he just goes,
like, what?
They're asking the publisher of the Chronicle,
the biggest boss,
to hide under the desk. Larry, admits it's strange, but it's the only way they're going to be able to prove their case against Glover. I mean, it's a smart move.
And then Glover's coming, and Wainwright's like, what? You want me to go under the desk? And he's like, it's the only way we can show you. If I'm wrong, you can fire me, as he's shoving him under the desk. And Wainwright's like, that's a given.
That's a given.
And then they get him under the desk, and Glover, and it's a big desk.
Yeah, it's a big with a really
you
glossy
can't see underneath
top. Yes.
it. Yeah,
glossy.
So he's hiding under the desk,
and he's like, I can't believe I'm doing this. But they get him. They get him to go and hide. So Glover's hiding, and Wainwright's hiding. Glover comes in, holding some paper, going, Appleton, they told me I would find you here. This is not the article I told you to write. Now do it over, and you do it my way.
Whoa,
he is bossy. He is a boss.
Rude.
Okay, boss. He's the boss.
Okay, boss. And Larry's like, well, I just told the truth about the way you're implementing the American Dream program. And I merely pointed out that Balky isn't getting the real opportunities that the program is designed to give.
He's writing the truth. And Glover's like, oh, well, why don't we ask Balky about that? Balky, are you unhappy in your position here? And Balky sheepishly goes, well, I'm not one to complain, but all I do is get my picture taken. He goes, I'm starting to get flashbulb burn.
Flashbulb burn.
Meaning you can see those white things in your eyes everywhere you look. And Larry's like, doesn't the program have something to do with training immigrants? And Glover goes, oh, sure, I could train him, but then he'd go to lunch and I'd have to train him again.
Oh,
okay,
ouch.
So he's implying that immigrants can't learn, can't change, and are dumb. Okay, Glover.
Yeah.
And Glover turns to leave, and Balky stops him. He goes, Mister, forgive me. And now, the tone, it shifts to being very serious, right?
Yeah.
Everything is very serious. He goes, Mr. Glover.
Except for there are still jokes.
Except for this joke where they laugh at it. He goes, Mr. Glover, forgive me, I'm just a poor, ignorant immigrant. English is not my mother's tongue.
I love that so much.
And that gets a laugh.
Yeah.
Why?
Because he meant to say English is not my mother tongue.
Oh, mother
as in native tongue.
Yes.
Native
and
language,
he says
mother's
tongue.
So he says English is not my mother's tongue, which means the same thing. It's just a funny, different way to say it. But the phrase is my mother tongue. Your mother tongue is your native language.
But also makes sense. My mother's tongue would also make sense. Anyways, it goes, like I said, it kind of was a joke, but it goes back to going serious as Balki asks him, are you saying you never had any intention of giving me anything to do? Here's where they're giving Glover a rope to hang himself.
And then Glover steps right into it and he says, you are doing something, Bartakmas. You're taking a job away from a real American who deserves it.
Ouch.
Ouch. Now there's a lot of tension in the air. Balki says, I see. So you're saying that if a person is not born here, then he has no right to work here. Glover's like, no, you foreigners can work here.
You foreigners, he says.
But the good jobs should go to real Americans.
Oh, this guy.
Now, am I talking too fast for you?
This guy is a piece of work. Oh, my God. Larry, knowing that Wainwright is hiding, right? I feel like Larry has some courage and is willing to just get a little aggressive. He goes, Mr. Glover, you may have been born in America, but you're not much of an American. And Glover's like, no.
What?
He goes, you're too small and narrow-minded to know the meaning of the word. Glover's irate. He goes, oh, really? Well, maybe you know the meaning of these words. You're fired.
And just then, Wainwright pops up from behind the desk and he says, I'll do the firing around here.
Oh, my God. And the audience, starts applauding. They're like,
Busted.
yes. They got him. And Glover's like, oh, Mr. Wainwright, how was your trip, sir? And Wainwright's just like, save it, Glover. Clean out your desk.
And Glover's like, clean out my desk. He's in shock. He's like, and then he tries to fight for himself in his defense. He goes, I'm doing a great job here. Your costs are down. Your circulation is up.
That's what he did at St. Louis.
Yeah.
And that's why he brought him in. But again, I really love Wainwright.
Yes, Wainwright comes out as the hero here. He says there are more important things than lower costs and higher circulation.
Wow.
I'm not firing you because you're doing a bad job. I'm firing you because you're a bigot and there's no room in the Chronicle for bigots.
Again, the audience erupts in applause. Yes. And then Larry gets a great burn here. He goes, Mr. Glover, I know you're not wild about government programs, but you might want to look into unemployment.
Oh,
Capital
burn,
U.
Glover.
Good burn by Larry.
And then Glover is just like pissed off and he turns and he starts leaving the room. And then Balki's like, Mr. Glover, on your way out, you can have Maria validate your parking.
Gives him a cheeky smile.
Oof. And he huffs out of there.
And so Wainwright steps between Balki and Larry to tell them that was a gutsy thing you two did. And it was. He's right. But Balki, of course, old literal Balki goes, oh, we know our way around guts, Mr. Wainwright. Then he continues because now I don't know if you ever made a sausage from scratch, but you got to get right in there. You got to get, he's doing this motion. He's got to get right up in there.
And Larry's like, Balki, Mr. Wainwright is saying we're brave. And then Wainwright says that he still wants Balki to be in the American Dream program. And Balki's like, oh, no, does that mean I have to stay in this job? And Wainwright's like, nope, you're going back to the mailroom for now.
For the time being.
But then he tells Larry that he wants him to take Balki under his wing and train him.
Oh, wow.
Show him what it's like to be an investigative reporter.
Oh, my God. Larry's like, my pleasure, sir. I hope they continue this thread. I want to watch Balki become an investigative reporter. And Balki is so happy he thanks Wainwright, gives him a big hug, of course. And Wainwright hugs him back, kind of.
And he says, good, keep up the good work, boys. And he leaves. And they're very excited. And Larry's like, you're going to get a chance to be a real reporter, which makes me think, I'm a real boy.
I'm a real boy now.
And then they are so happy that they do the dance of joy. And then the credits roll.
Yes, it ends with a wonderful dance of joy. We didn't talk about what Balki is wearing in this scene. How would you describe this thing?
Another formal wear. It's black and gold. We've seen a few different black and gold formal attires on him. This one, however, doesn't have fringes like usual. It's not a vest. It's just like a lot of gold embroidery in the chest area, and the rest is like all black and big shoulder pads.
But it's like a piece of cloth that wraps over the top of his body and sticks out and gives him pointy shoulders. It's quite a thing. I love what he was wearing here. Roll credits.
And roll credits.
Listener, check out our TeePublic shop if you want some podcast swag. Dance of Joy swag. danceofjoypod.com/shop will get you there. But we got lovely t-shirts and hoodies and cell phone cases and mugs with the lovely logo, so you can show off to all your friends that you are a Dance of Joy listener. What do you think of this episode? I mean, I thought it was like they got serious. Like, this is a big topic they were tackling.
Yeah. So my first thought was, what was going on in immigration policy in the country, and was it in the news, and
That's
were people
a good question.
protesting?
Where did this whole thing come from?
And was it like in the general conscious of the society at the time, and that's what they were talking about? I mean, regardless, the issue is still relevant today. But I did look it up, and we had the Immigration Act of 1990.
Oh, okay.
Which I believe increased the number of people who could legally migrate to the United States, and then introduced a bunch of different things for the next several years. So I don't know, like, if this was a big deal. I don't remember if people are talking about it, but it's possible that, like, it had been on the floor and discussed and being debated for a while, and there were some strong feelings in America. And what I thought was very interesting in Perfect Strangers handling it in this episode was that they didn't like take a side, right? Like, they kind of showed both sides. Like, at first, Balky gets this job just given this job, and you see Larry's frustration, right? So Larry's like the Americans who are like, what? But he doesn't deserve it.
Why does the immigrant get the job?
He works in the mailroom. Like, I should deserve it, or one of us, like someone more qualified. Even though they're cousins and they're best friends,
right?
You see that, and I see it now as that, like, showing that side of the argument. Like, why are immigrants?
Yeah.
All these affirmative action programs are just giving people chances when they haven't worked. Blah blah blah. But then you also see the other side of it. Where the programs exist for a reason. And then you see, like, when
companies take advantage maybe of the program and their employees.
But then, okay, so you see, like, Larry kind of having those feelings. It's like not stated, but you can imagine why he gets annoyed in the beginning or jealous. But then when Glover comes out and just says it, then everybody changes. Like, they're like, oh, that's not right at all. And Larry is, like, truly shocked and disgusted about his abuse of this program or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a topic that's been around ever since.
Right. It's
still around. And even way before this, ever since the country was founded, this conversation has been going on. But again, I have to say, I love the Sanford Jensen guy. Right away, he walks in, you hate him. He did what he had to do. And some funny lines. And, you know, once a season, they tackle a serious topic. Like, it made me thought of, like, the sexual harassment episode.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a running thread through the show. So I appreciate that.
Some good wordplay. We love that.
Yeah. Some crazy references that were fun to dig back and figure out.
And it seemed at the end like they were kind of trying to set up Balky and Larry continuing to work with each other as investigative reporters.
Plot develops in the future, because now it's a good change of dynamic, and Balky kind of has a purpose.
May or may not.
Anyways, fun episode.
Yeah, I thought all around it was a fun episode. There was that one thing, like, that we both thought, the do I mind? Does Miss Mivas have a mustache? We're like, did they do that on purpose, or was that an accident? Actually, it means he minds. Anyway, language nerds over here.
The language stuff is also fun. What did our listeners think of this episode, sister?
Oh, our listeners had a lot of thoughts.
Okay, boss.
We'll read some of them. Cousin Nicole Stoner writes, it's been a while since we've had a more serious episode from a thematic standpoint, and I'll argue that this is one of the best in the series for that. Not only do we have an unfortunate real-world and still applicable scenario brought to light, but Larry's character shines here as well. Yes. He doesn't lie to Jennifer about his initial jealousy. He doesn't manipulate Balky throughout their conversation on the couch. And as a bonus, none of his behavior is for his own selfish reasons.
Good points.
He could have easily looked into why he didn't get promoted, and we could have had another selfish Larry episode. But that's not the case this time around, and it pays off immensely.
Nice.
Mark Lynn Baker's facial expressions of shock and disgust throughout the episode, especially after the taking a job away from a real American who deserves it line, are palpable through the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like Wainwright, good guy. Like I love Wainwright now. FJ O'Neill playing Wainwright's great. I want to hang out with him. But not everybody enjoyed the episode. Whitney Smith chiming in saying, I actually hated this episode.
Uh-oh.
For one, like Balky was saying when he was crying, something's missing. It was an episode that you really had to think about even watching it over and over. I didn't like the plot of it at all. It had me feeling some kind of way on both sides. Only thing I did kind of care for was instead of having manipulative Larry, we have loving Larry. And he really shined about wanting to bring Glover down and helping, caring and saving Balky. She says she agrees with cousin Nicole. Mark Baker's facial expressions of shock and disgust was on point, and what the cousins did to catch Mr. Glover was brilliant. Yeah, that was great, and it took a lot of courage and bravery. But she says, unfortunately, this still happens in the real world, in the job field, sadly, very significantly. So the episode definitely still holds up today for PS Today.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, she's done that segment for him. I love the made-up newspaper and the St. Louis reference being that I myself and Mark Baker are both from St. Louis.
Oh, trivia.
Another bit of trivia, Doris Roberts, also known as Mrs. Bailey from that one episode, is also from St. Louis.
Okay.
Two St. Louisans in one episode. How do you say that? People from St. Louis. But there's no such thing as St. Louis Examiner. It's actually the St. Louis.
It's okay. There's no Chicago Chronicle
Dispatch.
either.
There's no Chicago Chronicle.
And then we have cousin John. Okay, so Whitney Smith didn't like it because it made her feel some kind of way. That's fair. Then we have cousin John Adama, who gives very insightful comments. As always, he writes, I guess I never appreciated how far paper shredding technology has come. It's the size of a recliner.
That
was
huge.
a very huge paper shredder.
It was like when computers used to take up the whole room.
Actually, office-sized paper shredders are still that big.
Well,
because when I used to work in an office, just like pre-pandemic,
if you have
the paper
large
shredders
amounts,
were massive machines, and printers were massive too.
But then you can buy a little one for your home. You can buy a little one at home,
but
yeah.
And then here's my little secret. You were supposed to take out the staples, but I never did.
It shreds. I mean, a good paper shredder, you're gonna mess up the thing eventually, but it should shred through the papers. But dude, they have these paper shredders.
Lazy to take out the
you
staples.
Can buy at home that you can put compact discs right
into.
We
have one,
your credit card, just like all sorts. You're like, and it's a fun game. You're like, will this shred?
Yes.
Let's try to shred this.
That's how you break the paper.
That's how you break
that
paper
and
shredder.
Being too lazy to take the staples out. I was like, I had like stacks and stacks of documents. I'm not sitting there.
Yeah, but you have a staple remover. You it pops right out.
Where's the intern? Okay.
Yeah, it's an intern job.
All right, back to cousin John Adama's comments. He writes, when is Dance of Joy going to start selling Dimitri posters?
Okay, so I was going to bring this up in the Dimitri appearance, but we might as well bring it up now. We didn't mention in Balky's office, there are a couple of posters.
Framed.
Well, there's two posters of newspaper covers. One is like the royal wedding. One says, what's the other one say?
It says Walk on Moon.
A Walk on Moon. So like apparently, like the big stories they published. And then there's a giant print of Dimitri.
A portrait of
his
Dimitri.
stuffed sheep on like this red velvet cloth. It's hilarious. I was like, oh my God, look at that Dimitri poster. And you know what, cousin John, that's not a bad idea. Put that up in our
Dimitri posters shop. Coming soon.
A Dimitri poster.
And cousin John also writes, Balky likes the Munsters too. I've seen worse revivals.
The Munsters Today too.
Oh, the Munsters Today too. Balky also likes the Munsters Today.
I don't think that reboot was any good because it didn't last that long. Otherwise,
we'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
And here comes John's summary. I'm not a fan of preachy sitcoms. They almost always end up sacrificing laughs and character development for the message. This episode avoids this by raising awareness, but not really taking a stand. It doesn't promote these types of programs. It just points out that some people can do the right thing, but for all of the wrong reasons.
That's the message.
That's what it is,
That's the theme.
As a sucker for physical comedy, I was left wanting, but the dialogue feels snappier to earn some extra laughs. And I'm a softie when Larry is a good guy.
Yeah.
As much as I wanted to write off this, quote, very special episode, I can't get it out of my mind. It did its job and did it well. And once the paper shredder gets updated, it could still have a place on TV today. B+. Okay, everyone's doing our PS Today segment.
Yeah, I know they say, but I think it's the consensus is there, and they're pretty much saying what I was thinking anyways. So
yeah. And finally, Nicole Stoner chimes in again, saying, but one thing I've noticed with Public Strangers is that there aren't many very special episodes.
Wait, did you say Public Strangers?
And cousin Nicole Stoner chimes in again saying, one thing I've noticed with Perfect Strangers is that there aren't many very special episodes in the same sense as other TGIF sitcoms that followed. I'm sure it's because the cousins work in local news and are in their 20s. So maybe that's why the more serious episodes seem to be more crime-based.
So, no, that's a good point because
that is a good
if you
point.
think of like Family Ties,
It's like
Different
after-school
Strokes,
special. It's all like children's
Punky Brewster
issues,
would
yeah.
do these, and the whole episode would just have this different tone.
Yeah.
Even All in the Family had that
Yeah.
crazy episode where what's her name?
Oh, Edith.
Edith was
got
assaulted. Our dude
Yeah, I
breaks in
remember that.
and
yeah.
assaults her. I'm like, this is wild in a live audience.
And you're
It's
watching,
dead
and
quiet.
the whole you have this icky feeling.
It's so
the whole
eerie.
time.
It's amazing. It's so
Yeah.
good. But those are clearly like the special, very special, and they would market that on.
Yeah.
Remember this week on a very special episode.
Yeah, yeah.
So you know you were getting into something
like,
heavy.
Arnold and Dudley in the old
Yes,
man's
that's one.
bathing tub. Very
Yeah, the bike.
bathtub.
The guy who sold bikes. That
yeah,
was creepy.
That was icky.
Family Ties had a couple of good ones.
Yeah.
But this one, they don't do that. They just kind of slip it in as like a regular, and then there's like a message. So
Yeah.
they ride that balance very well.
Yeah.
Great comments this episode. Got everybody talking. Don't be ridiculous, of course, said once.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
And we already mentioned Dimitri appearance being in the form of a Dimitri framed poster photograph on the wall.
And now it's time for Perfect Strangers today, but we've kind of already addressed it through our listeners' comments. The issue is still around. It can be extended in any number of ways to affirmative action or DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives.
Yeah.
And you could easily just like put someone in there for the optics of a role or to get
Absolutely doing.
you know.
I see it being done today with like Asian people, different races. It would apply. It's still very
or
relevant.
people with disabilities or LGBT,
disability.
like all this stuff.
Yeah.
In the inclusion realm, and then
It's kinda
people tokenizing that for whatever personal gains.
It is sad that it's still a thing. And it makes me think of, there's that South Park episode where they think the people are coming to steal their jobs, and they're like, they're going to take our jobs. It's just a mob of people going, they'll take our jobs. They're going to take our jobs. But that hysteria is always still there, and it's still like specifically they're gonna take our jobs thing. It still happens today. Unfortunately, it is kind of sad. So yeah,
The funny thing about this show addressing like the immigration issue is that Balky is still a white man, but somehow he's filling the role as like the foreigner, the outsider, the marginalized. But I'm like, okay, but you're still a white man.
Yes, but he has a slightly darker skin tone.
Yeah,
he's got
an
slightly olive
skin and
That's
an
enough.
accent.
That's
Okay.
enough. That's
enough as like 80s television could go, right? As far.
All right, that's it for this week. Next week, join us when Balky gets another new position at the Chronicle with some power. They're always just throwing all sorts of jobs his way and hijinks into. Of course, in the meantime, if you enjoy the nostalgia and the deep dives and the reference digging we do here, you can support this show by buying us.
Sometimes we dig deeper.
Yeah, and sometimes we dig too deep. We're like, oh boy, we didn't need all this. But you can help us and give back and buy us a virtual coffee. Visit our website, danceofjoypod.com. There's a little buy us a coffee button. All proceeds go right back into the show to keep it coming out week after week.
We're going to make it. You got to help us make it to the end. We're already almost through season 5.
Yes, we're at the end of season 5, and so there is 2 full seasons and a half season, 2.5 seasons left.
And we're going to need your support,
I need all that
especially
virtual
toward
coffee.
the end, because those episodes got...
It might get rough, and I'm going to have to think of ways to, spin things. Or we'll just call it how it is.
Things to appreciate in the last
We could just
couple
remember season
seasons. 3.
Maybe we'll just go back and do that. We'll see. If you want to find out, buy us a coffee.
Okay, and if you are wondering what we said about the good seasons of Perfect Strangers, you can go see us.
We're still in the good
We
season.
are still. They're all good seasons. We
We're
love
still-
them. We
yes.
love them, and we'll keep watching them forever. But if you want to know what we said about earlier seasons, please go to our website, danceofjoypod.com. There you can find out how and where you can listen to the podcast, the Dance of Joy podcast, where you can leave us a rating, a review, like, or subscribe. And you can also press a button right there on the page and send us a voicemail message. Tell us if you've ever experienced tokenism in the workplace.
Many people have.
Or you could send us an email, danceofjoypod@gmail.com. Say hi, say anything you want. We'd love to hear from you. You can also hit us up on any of our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at danceofjoypod. But Imran, what is the most important thing our listeners should do?
Well, if you want to impress your boss, of course, just send him a stripper. It works every time. No,
Bambi?
Bambi or Candy or whoever's available. Whoever's not booked. No, the real thing, most important thing is, of course, to share the show, spread the dance of joy around by dancing with your podcast app and getting people to listen.
That's our episode for today. Now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy.
Hey, 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 hey.